Welcome to another episode of High and Tight. I'm John Nolan, the PBR Virginia DC content manager and the Northern Virginia scouting director. With me, as always, is Jason Burton, the PBR Virginia DC scouting director, coming to you from outside of the Richmond area because he's not actually in Richmond. Burton, I feel like you've been to like 75 games this season so far, at least. What is your food choice from the last week here?
I can't remember where I've been. I can't remember where I was last week. Let's
Well, according to our spreadsheet, you were at that 5A doubleheader, Hickory, Bayside, Granby, Gloucester. So you were down at the beach, McLean and Westfield.
Good question.
Mm. Salem, Amherst, you were out west.
Oh, okay.
Cox, Hickory, First Colonial, Kempsville. You've been down to the beach twice this week.
Yeah, nothing really didn't really hit anywhere. I tell you what, Amherst. There's a little local spot. It's called the Briar Patch. Just went and had a sandwich. It's a pretty solid little spot, little local spot. Shout out to John Apperson, Amherst's head coach, for sending me there.
All right. Yep. Food hits if you're in the Lynchburg area, a little north of Lynchburg for Amherst County. Um, that is the recommended spot there for the head coach. All right. So let's get into the meat of what we're doing here with this podcast today. In this episode, we are going to update our Power 25. We're going to name our 11th team of the week, our 11th player of the week, and we are going to look at this week's VHSL region tournament action. So let's go ahead and looking at our Power 25. We got St. John's in the number one spot locked in. Their season is over. Most of the top 8 or 9 so far is staying the same. Independence staying at 2, Colgan 3, Freedom South Riding 4, Liberty Christian 5, still unbeaten, Lake Braddock 6, Cape Henry 7, Madison 8, Freeman 9, and then moving up to number 10 is Benedictine. New to the rankings this week, we've got a couple of new teams. You've got Abingdon checking in at number 22, James Wood checking in at number 24, and Chatham actually checking in at number 25. So those are the changes here in the Power 25. Make sure you guys are checking that on the website. This week, I'm pretty sure it's going to run on a Tuesday, but usually on the Mondays. We're getting close to the end here. We probably only have 2 more updates left as I'm recording this right now on Monday, Memorial Day. So let's go ahead and move on now to our team of the week. And our team of the week here for week 11 is Tuscarora. Tuscarora went 3-0 on the week. They won the Dulles District Tournament and punched their tickets to the Region 4C tournament. They had 3 tough games in the process of winning that. They beat Loudoun County and ECU commit Corey Costello on Monday night. They had a tough, well-coached Broad Run team in their Wednesday night win, and they actually no-hit Heritage, who is the other team from their district going to the region tournaments in the championship game. So both Heritage and Tuscarora are advancing to the 4C tournament. Tuskie's going to travel to Kettle Run on Tuesday night for the Region 4C semifinals, and Heritage will host James Wood. So congratulations to Tuscarora. We will circle back to them later on today in Spaces and here in a little bit as we go through this recording. But again, congratulations to our team of the week for week 11, Tuscarora. Burton, I haven't thrown it to you here in a minute. So any notes on Tusky?
Yeah, I mean, not trying to create controversy, but as we were looking at it, just like trying to figure out, uh, obviously you know how things work in Northern Virginia a whole lot better than I. But just trying to figure out how they were not regular season champions when I think from what I saw, from what I could see, they had the same number of in region, if you will, losses. However, Tuscarora swept Heritage on the year, two regular season games, and then obviously the postseason game in the district tournament. So I was just confused. Not that
I don't know all the tiebreakers. I just know that they were attacking the week as though they had to win the tournament to advance to the region
yeah.
tournament.
And again, not that it really matters because I imagine Cowan's rolling out tomorrow night at uh at Kettle Run.
at Kettle Run.
Yep, and there may be a fourth matchup.
There certainly might be. That's a tournament that's going to be really interesting to talk about. Looking forward to actually talking about it. I am really, 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 really tempted to go check out Cowan against Kettle Run. And I'm going to say this now, and I know Coach Thorpe at Kettle Run feels the same way. I think the biggest thing that's deterring me from that is the new press box at Kettle Run that's right on top of home plate, so you can't get behind home plate, which sucks. And Coach Thorpe actually thinks the same thing, but that is what it is. So yeah, congratulations to Tuscarora, our team of the week. Let's go ahead and move on to our player of the week. And our player of the week for week 11, Bert, you're going to see him tomorrow night as we're recording this. Zaire Hope, 2023 outfield left-handed pitcher from Colonial Forge. He is a UNC Chapel Hill commit. On Thursday in Colonial Forge's regional quarterfinal win over Forest Park, 17-3, by the way, football score there. Um, he went 2 for 2 with a home run, a double, a sacrifice fly, and 5 RBIs. And the home run that he hit, I actually got a text message notification last night. I think it just landed Sunday night, to be honest with you. So Zaire Hope, our player of the week for week 11. Bert, we've both been out to see him. I've been out to see him a couple more times. Any thoughts or notes on Z right now?
He's good. Um, just
That's the understatement of the year.
his story is crazy. Uh, just kind of his process. You talk about guys' process being different and stuff like that, and there probably could not be a more rapid 180 from the recruiting process and where you are as a prospect to where he is right now. Um, gets invited to the MLB draft workout, I think down in Arizona. I think that happened last week or so. So he's headed there now with, I believe, Farmelo and Eldridge. I'm not sure if there's anybody else from Virginia going, potentially one more. Um, but like from unrecruited, like nobody really talking to him and being thought of as a PO in high school. You remember that conversation that we had
I,
last
I
February with Zaire at one of our events, and to a high school PO to potentially not playing positionally to one of the most coveted uncommitted players in the class in the country. Um, and committing to Chapel Hill and being an East Coast pro, and now potentially being a top 3, top 4 round pick, like crazy. That's what
I just remember
16,
the first
17.
time that we saw him in late August of 2021 at a scout day for what was it, Ace Elite at the time. Um, we tagged Colonial Forge on Twitter because he was transferring from Mount Vernon to Colonial Forge because his family had moved. And the head coach of Colonial Forge gets on the phone, calls me up, and he's like, "Why are you tagging me about this kid? He's not in my program. I have no idea." And I'm like, "Yes, he is. He just enrolled 3 days ago. Congratulations. You might have just won the lottery."
And I think they've like documented that. I've seen kind of in some stories and some news articles from some newspapers in Northern Virginia or whatever. I think that's kind of been documented that that they were getting tagged and didn't know what the heck was happening, and then
hmm
Zaire shows up.
And I mean, if we're speaking about Colonial Forge in general, I mean, Zaire and Dave's son, Zach Colangelo, that might be the fastest outfield in the state of Virginia. I mean, you've got a pair of 6'5" or better runners playing in center and right there. It's stupid quick. Like they could play two outfielders, to be honest with you. All right, so congratulations again to our Week 11 Player of the Week, Zaire Hope, from Colonial Forge. Again, 2 for 2, home run, double, sac fly, 5 RBIs in Forge's region quarterfinal win Thursday night over Forest Park. They have advanced to Tuesday night's semifinal games, and that actually leads me to a nice little segue here. Tuesday, weather permitting, May 30th, is going to be a busy day for region action in Virginia for VHSL. A bunch of state tournament tickets on the line. We've had a couple punched already. James Madison and Westfield punched their region tickets on Friday night in 6D. but most of them are going to be on the line here in the next couple of days. And so some of these big games Tuesday night, Patriot at Colgan, Colonial Forge at Freedom South Riding, West Springfield at Hayfield, Woodson at Lake Braddock, Tuscarora at Kettle Run, James Wood at Heritage Leesburg, Warwick at Smithfield, Gloucester at Menchville, Lebanon at Eastside, Jamestown at Great Bridge, Hanover at Matoka, um, Blacksburg at Louisa County, Atlee at Mechanicsville, Nansemond River at Maury, Chatham at Allegheny, Christiansburg at Cave Spring. I'll be honest with you, Burton, I'm having a tough time right now picking what game I'm going to go to just because there's such a volume of good matchups right now on Tuesday. Are there any of those that I mentioned in passing that you want to take 30 seconds to talk about? And I know we're going to do most of this on a spaces here later on this evening, Monday, as we're recording this, that will get pinned to our Twitter account if you miss it live. So make sure you're checking on that. Any of those games jumping out to you that you want to talk about here for a second?
That Hanover Matoka game I think is going to be good. That's probably one of the first. I mean, Matoka played at home their first round, I believe, and then had to travel for their second round, and are now ended up hosting a regional semi, which is probably the first time in a very very long time, just because of the conference and classifications that they've been in and stuff like that. A, their seating hasn't worked out, or B, they just didn't have like higher seat sites. Because I know when I coached in Matoka for 2 years, and when I was there when we were at semis, it was like common site at Deep Run. Um, so yeah, that could be a very good matchup. And like I said, as expected, Hanover as the 8 seed knocked off the 1 seed. Cortland, I think that was fairly convincing, if I'm not mistaken.
I would have
Something
to look back at the
like that.
scores to be honest with you.
Yeah, it was a pretty big separation. Um, that one, both well coached teams, both play hard. Matoka's very aggressive offensively. Um, I think that one has a potential to be a very 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 interesting, very fun matchup. Other than that, Nansemond River at Maury. I have not seen Maury this year. I'd love to get a chance to get somebody there, or maybe War Memorial and the staff helps me out and pushes that to Wednesday, and maybe we can get somebody there. Because I would imagine they're starting Derek Baker, 2025 right-hander, who we have not got a chance to see this year and who we want to see. That could be a really good matchup versus Nansemond River because he's a pretty good arm. Um, yeah, I mean, there's lots of matchups that we could talk about, but I think those two kind of jump out. Atlee and Mechanicsville, a rivalry game for a state berth. Like that's hard pressed not to beat that one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's a lot of good games, and I honestly am baffled as to how we're going to pick them, other than I'm actually quietly rooting for the rain to break some of these games up and move some of them to Wednesday night at this point in time. I never root for rain, but I'm rooting for it a little bit right now. All right. So we will get back to those games in a little more detail on Spaces Monday evening. Again, if you miss our Spaces live, it'll be pinned to the PBR Virginia DC Twitter account. But we do want to take a minute and actually look closely at Class 2 and Class 1 because we kind of skipped over them on our region spaces last week. And we want to make sure we give them the time that they have. So I'm going to roll real quickly with where each region is, and then we'll bounce through them here as we go. All right. So in Region 2A, you are down to the semifinals playing tomorrow night. You have Poquoson hosting Arcadia for a state tournament berth, and you have King William hosting Randolph Henry. Bert, any thoughts on 2A? Other than Poquoson's probably the favorite. They play in a district that's got class 3s and 4s all season, so they drop down to 2 during the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, you would think that Picoson's a favorite. I mean, looking at Arcadia's season, they've given up a lot of runs versus better opponents. They have not scored as many. They have not. So there may be some offensive challenges there versus Poquoson. Poquoson is so well coached. You got a staff who has been there for quite some time, very experienced. rich in tradition, rich in winning. And honestly, that goes a very long ways when you get to tournament time. An experienced staff and a program that expects to win. The King William Randolph Henry could be interesting. You got
I mean, I'm looking at Randolph Henry. They've won their last 6 games and they've scored at least 8 runs in every single one of them.
yeah. Uh,
That's good, right?
some or in Jamie's words, some would say.
Yeah.
um, you got King William has beat Middlesex twice, which I believe Middlesex is one. I believe they're one, but they're one of the better teams in
That
one.
sounds right.
And they lost a close one to Lancaster. They beat Goochland. Well, they split with Goochland. So they have some quality wins, or over some teams of kind of similar uh, makeup and similar size in terms of the school. And in Randolph Henry, honestly, Randolph Henry may be a little bit more tested. Um, for schools that size. They played Appomattox. They played Buckingham. They've played Lunenburg. I don't know if they ended up seeing Allard, the Virginia Tech commit, but they've played some teams
Either way, that's 3 pretty tough games for a Class 2 school to have on their schedule.
for sure. Um, and like you said, they lost a one-run game to Buckingham. They lost a one-run game to Lunenburg. Uh, Lost a one-run game to a team from Ohio, two-run game to Buckingham, two-run game to Appomattox. So they've won the games they were supposed to win. They've won some games that maybe team might have been a little bit better than them, maybe. In the games where teams maybe outmatched them on the mound or something like that, they hung in those games. So I think they're going to be battle tested. I would go out on a limb and say it's going to be Pocosin and Randolph Henry. Shout out to Georgia
I
Jones, my wife. She's a Randolph Henry alum. Um, she'll never listen to this. She's downstairs right now, but yeah,
I tend to agree with you. I think we're looking at Randolph Henry and we're looking at Picosin probably coming out here in 2A. So let's move on to 2B. 2B is actually going to play this afternoon as we're recording this on
supposed
Monday Memorial Day.
supposed to
They're hmm?
supposed to.
Supposed to, yes, keyword there, supposed to play their games this afternoon as we're recording this. Obviously, weather's rolling through here on Memorial Day, so it might end up being Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, but it's supposed to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday for this tournament. You've got top seeded Buckingham hosting Clark County. Um, Fifth seeded Mountain View used to be called Stonewall Jackson, hosting at number 4 Page County. East Rockingham hosting Luray, and then Stewart's Draft is traveling to Madison County. Just looking at the whole of this bracket, I mean, you're probably talking about Buckingham coming out of here, and honestly, either East Rock or Madison County, right, Bert?
Yeah, I think actually I believe we were at Jordan was at East Rock in Madison a few weeks ago. I'm pretty sure.
He was. I do remember seeing that and being like, "Oh, really? He went for a drive."
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Madison won that game. I think it's kind of chalky to get to the semis,
I agree with that.
with the one exception being potentially Mountain View. Was it Quicksburg over Page County? They split this year. Um, I think they lost to Page County 3-0, and then the more recent one they beat Page County 4-0.
Well, Page beat Page beat East Rock last week.
Yeah, Page is 9-14 on the season. Mountain View's 12.
Or pardon me, Page beat Madison County last week. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean for whatever those records are worth, um, you can throw those out the window this time of year. But I have a feeling that, and it's a 4-5, so it's not like it gets that crazy. But I think I would take Mountain View and Buckingham and East Rock and Madison in the semis, and kind of who knows from there. I think Buckingham comes out of the top, but I think it'll be interesting to see who comes out of the bottom.
Yeah, no, I think, and this will be sneaky competitive. I mean, in a world, um, in a world where a few years ago you had Page County rolling to like 3 state championships in 5 years, when TR and Lance Williams were there. This would be the easiest region to pick, but it's definitely not now that those guys aren't there. TR having graduated, Lance having moved over to William Monroe. So yeah, no, definitely very interesting region. I think it is a little chalky. I think you got Buckingham um, coming probably out of the top, and I do think you're right. We're looking at East Rock, maybe Madison County in the bottom half. All right, 2C has been playing for a couple for about a week now. Their region semifinals are scheduled for Tuesday night. Um, and in 2C we have Allegheny hosting Chatham. That'll be a hell of a game. And then you also have Patrick County hosting Nelson County. Nelson County pulling the upset at Appomattox County in the quarterfinals last week. So those are your semifinals. Um, Chatham with the win over Dan River, another traditional power there. Dan River, Allegheny blowing out Glenvar, Patrick County, boat race Floyd County. So you've got that interesting set of semifinals set up. You've got the two top seeds. You had the one upset, Nelson County over Appomattox. What are we thinking here with those semifinals, Bert?
Allegheny was 16-0 until they kind of stumbled on back-to-back days to Rockbridge and Radford, which were both kind of close losses. And then it seems like they got back on track last week versus Glenvar. I don't know if maybe they knew their seeding or something like that, and maybe they sat some arms and rested some folks or something. I don't know if that happened. Other than those two games, they have rolled through everyone. I do think that,
Chatham hasn't lost since April 18th.
yeah. Well, I'm saying I do
And
think,
all of these wins, there's like a 3-2 win, but almost all of them are like blowouts the last month.
I think the talent level is going to pick up drastically for Allegheny when they see Chatham tomorrow at Radford. Um, no, they have not played a team that I'm aware of. They have not played a team this year with that talent level, kind of, the depth in the lineup, the Jake Moore, the Carrington Aaron. You got Van Pelt on the mound, Kenan Lewis, multiple guys on that Chatham team that can hurt you. Um, and whereas Chatham's pretty well tested, like you said, I mean, they've played Nelson County, who's in this semi. Um, they rolled Tunstall last time, who is that's no roll, that's no easy game. They beat them 10-1. They beat Appo 3-1. They beat Magna Vista, who just lost out. Um, where they stumbled, a little bit earlier in the year versus some of those teams versus Tunstall and Appo, but they're hot right now. And again, that's another program that is used to winning, and that's the expectation. I think they want to get back to the ways of old after a year or two off. So I see Chatham, if you will, pulling the upset, if you want to call it that, the two seed over the one.
And how about on the Patrick County side? Their only losses this year are twice to Tunstall and twice to Halifax,
I think that
who are bigger schools.
Yeah, I think that Nelson County is going to see one of the best arms that they've seen all year in Tucker Swales. Um, Nelson County's 14-9. They pulled the upset versus Appo. Appo's been a little bit down this year, um, but I mean, you see when they have faced kind of better arms for the most part on their schedule, and some of the more talented teams like Amherst or Chatham, Appomattox, that during the regular season, at least with Appomattox, that they struggled to score off of them. So I think you're going to see Chatham and Patrick County.
I tend to agree with that. I know it's boring for us to agree on that, but I think that's the right pick here, to be honest with you. And again, those games scheduled to play at the University of Radford on Tuesday night, 5 and 7:30, or 5 and whenever it starts. Well, weather shouldn't be an issue for them. It's turf, right?
No, and I think Southwest, this weather's supposed to be out of there a little bit sooner anyway.
Okay, so that should be fine. All right, let's go to 2D. 2D, we are again into the semifinals at this point. These games slated for Tuesday night. You have John Battle hosting Central Wise. And then on the other side, you have Virginia High School hosting Marion. This is actually kind of a sneaky fun bracket here right now.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I got to go John Battle on the top. Um,
Right. No, John Battle probably on the top, but that other one, Virginia to traditional power, bunch of state championships, and then Marion has the big arm, right?
mm, uh, maybe it was Perkins you were thinking about. Who's at PDG?
Oh, is he?
Yep. So maybe it was that one you're thinking about.
Yeah,
Uh,
probably.
Not that I'm aware of, anyway.
Oh, well, then yep, that's what I was thinking about. Never mind.
Yep.
Scratch that. Still Virginia High, Marion. Marion with the upset over Union in the quarterfinals to advance to the semifinals. Central Wise actually upset Tazewell, which put them into the semifinals. So Battle was the Mountain Seven top seed. Virginia was the Southwestern District top seed. So that's what we're looking at. So you said Battle on top. What are you thinking? Virginia on the bottom, probably?
I am. I mean, I think that again, the history of the program and all of those things that kind of come back and I think sometimes help teams and programs. I mean, you're talking about a Virginia High team that lost in extras to Abingdon 10-9, and they lost by 2 to Battle. Um, Now they did lose to Marion. Uh, they did lose to Marion, I guess, what, 2 weeks ago. Um, but I think that they're going to avenge their latest loss or their last loss, and you're going to have Virginia High coming out of the bottom, and you're going to get Battle coming out of the top, um, to advance to the state tournament.
Yep, I think that's pretty much where my head is right now. All right, let's go ahead and jump to Class 1, and let's roll through these really quickly here. Class 1, Region A, you are to the semifinals. These games are slated to be played tomorrow night, Tuesday night. Essex, the top seed, is hosting Lancaster, the 4 seed. You have 2-seeded Rappahannock hosting 3-seed Middlesex. The quarterfinal games, I don't even know why they bothered to play the quarterfinal games. I mean, I'm sorry to the 4 teams that I'm dissing right now, but all 4 of those quarterfinals were run rule games. So clearly the top 4 teams have advanced at this point in time. Essex, Lancaster in the top, Middlesex at Rappahannock in the bottom. What's your feel here?
And again, you don't know. I mean, it's just seeding, but I think that Lancaster upsets the 1 seed in the top there. They played Essex. They beat them 3-0 in 9 innings. Then they beat them 6-2. All actually, they lost to them earlier in the season 10-5. So um, they played 3 games. Lancaster has won twice. Um, with obviously, and they've Lancaster has beaten Rappahannock. They've beaten Colonial Beach, Arcadia, Nandua. They lost 2 to Middlesex very early in the season. But I think that Lancaster gets the upset over Essex in that game. Um, and then on the bottom side, I think I'm going to take Rappahannock.
I was about to say, I'm looking at Rappahannock, and there's a loss to a Pennsylvania team. There's a loss to Kings William, and then there's 2 losses to Lancaster, but they've been fine against literally everybody else,
Yep.
including
Lost one to Essex.
beating Middlesex about 3 weeks ago.
Yep. I think they've beaten Middlesex twice this year. Third
Twice.
time's the third time is difficult. Beating a team 3 times in a year is tough. Um,
Right. They have 2 big wins over Lafayette, which is a bigger school.
yep. Um,
Swept a doubleheader.
so yeah, they haven't given up a ton of runs, 65 runs in 22 games. So I'm going to take Lancaster and Rappahannock.
I think that probably makes some sense. And the other thing too is this region is Thursday last week to Tuesday this week. So granted, all those games were blowouts. They were probably able to save pitching, but you're definitely going to have top arms on the mound for all 4 teams, most likely, right?
Yeah, you would think.
All right. So that's 1A. We're thinking Lancaster, and you said Rappahannock. I think I actually agree with all of that. Let's go to 1B. 1B also into the semifinals at this point in time. You only had 6 teams here in the regional tournament, and man, we had some upset action here in the quarterfinals. You had six-seeded Rappahannock County knocking off Lunenburg Central. You had number 5 William Campbell knocking off number 4 Surrey County, and that sets up our semifinals, which are slated for Tuesday night, May 30th. Buffalo Gap off the bye hosting William Campbell. Riverheads off the bye hosting Rappahannock County. I think this is going to go pretty chalky. I think you're looking at Buffalo Gap and Riverheads, right?
Yeah, I would say so. The one, kind of kink in that potentially would be William Campbell has. And I don't know. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I don't know how much he pitches for them. Tyler Mason, a Hampton Sydney commit, um, stupid fast. He can really run. Talented. Um, he is a senior this year. I know he threw for them. I guess it was 2 years ago when I was out to see them. Again, just kind of he's their guy. He is no doubt their guy. He could kind of.
I will say this, looking at their schedule, the advantage that they have is that they've been playing almost exclusively class 2, 3, and 4 schools all season, and they drop into class 1 for the playoffs. Like, I mean, lost to Appo County, lost to Nelson County, Dan River, Chatham twice, um, win over Appo County.
Yeah, I mean, and
Just looking through it, win over Dan River.
that game that they lost to Dan River, and I have no idea, but just looking at the score, it would probably the score probably tells me that Noah Abercrombie threw um, the 24 arm. So I think that they're going to be battle tested. They beat Appo earlier in the year. Um,
They beat Rustburg
they've played Glass, so they've probably seen you know
a couple different times. They've seen Velo.
Yep, they've seen Velo, they've seen good arms. Um, so
Split with Dan River.
think that could be the one advantage. Buffalo Gap will still be a tough task, but that could be the upset that I see. On the bottom side, I see Riverheads.
Yeah, no, I think the bottom side that's Riverheads. There's too much recent history there, and Rappahannock County, they're actually not too far away from me. They've had some years where they haven't been able to field a team in the last 5 years, and then some years where they go on surprising runs. So I lean Riverheads in recent competitive history in the playoffs for that. So let's move on to Region C. Region C also in the semifinals. These semifinals, well, according to Max Preps, one is scheduled to play today, and the other one has already been moved to tomorrow as we're recording this. So one currently slated for Monday, one currently slated for Tuesday. You've got 3 teams advanced from the same district of the 4. So here's what we got. We got Auburn hosting Galax. And then you have Narrows hosting George from Wytheville, not from Richmond, obviously. So what are we thinking here? Auburn?
Yeah,
Sure.
I'm going chalk here. I'm going Auburn and Narrows.
Yeah, I think that's probably the right call here. Just on the surface. I mean, if Grayson County had advanced over Narrows, they didn't. That could have been interesting. I think that game might have been more interesting than
I
what
mean,
we see
I
from
really,
Narrows with.
I think this is Auburn's region.
Yeah, no,
I'm
1,000%. This is Auburn's region
anything,
to
but I
lose.
mean, you got you have George Wythe in here, who's in the semis, who lost to Auburn, last week, 17-1. They lost earlier in the season to them 9-3 and 14-0. So I think that Auburn Auburn's the class of this region and could potentially be the class of one as a whole.
I mean, you do have
Except
3
for
of the
one.
4 teams are from, and correct me, I might be wrong with this. This should be the Mountain Empire District. Have 3 of the 4 teams in the finals, but I do think it's Auburn and Narrows here. I don't think we're going to see 2 Mountain Empire teams into
Yeah,
the
I mean,
state tournament, right?
no, Narrows beat Auburn about a month ago. They lost to them. They split with them this year. I think that's Narrow's only blemish on their schedule is a March 22nd loss to Auburn by 10.
Well, that might make for a very interesting championship game. That championship game is actually slated right now to be on Wednesday the 31st, and it's actually being played at Christiansburg High School. They're going to move to a neutral site for that. All right, 1D. Last one. Um, 1D, also in the semifinals at this point in time here. And we have Chilhowie traveling to Rural Retreat Tuesday afternoon. That game's slated for 2 o'clock. Oh, okay. I got you. I'm guessing that both of these games are being played as a doubleheader at Emory and Henry College, with the 2 and 4:30 starts. Chilhowie at Rural Retreat, and the other one is East Side Lebanon. Well, for one, the really, 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 really fun game is East Side Lebanon, right?
Yeah. Um, I mean, Lebanon's pretty talented. They're pretty talented.
And East Side is literally always, it feels like, in the state semifinals in Class One over the last like 6 or 7 years.
just like when Eastside has played, and again, not slighting anybody else, not trying to slight anybody else in their schedule, just calling it for what it is. Um, they played Auburn on April 12th and got beat 15-3. Um, when I just think that Lebanon's depth on the mound and positionally, is just going to be too much to overcome. You have VMI commit Seth Buchanan. You have 25 big, what do they call him? Tater Nathan Phillips. Um, that's dude. That is a Lebanon, Virginia uh, nickname if I've ever heard one. Um, but he's a really good arm. They have Dagan Barton, Seth Buchanan, Nathan Phillips. Like they have some talent on that team. They have, I mean, they've just flat out taken care of business this year. Their only two losses were on back-to-back days to Tennessee High School, which Tennessee High School was in the state tournament a few days ago. I think last week. So I don't know how they did after that, but I did look it up, and they were in the state tournament. They had two losses on March 23rd and March 24th. After that, yep, you pretty much chalk it up. They are 21-2, and they have given up 43 runs on the entire season. In their last, 9 games, it looks like they've given up like 7 total runs.
As Jamie would say, some would say that's okay.
Yes. They beat Abingdon twice, back to back weeks.
Those are pretty good wins right there.
Yeah. Beat Virginia High 14-0. Like Lebanon and Auburn are the class of one.
Yeah, no, agree with that. I mean, and by the way, how about a contrast in our quarterfinal games here? You have East Side and Lebanon facing each other. Both teams beat their opponents by 20 something to nothing scores in the quarterfinals. And then on the other side, you had Chilhowie with a 6-4 upset of Honaker. And then you had Rural Retreat losing 4-1 to Burton. That makes no sense. Oh, that does make sense. Did Burton have to forfeit that game? Did you forfeit a game?
No. When I was coaching, I did know the pitching rules, and I don't know. That's
No,
not this game. That's just honestly just a parting gift
that's
for any high school coach that does not know the pitching rules.
pure speculation right now. But according to Max Preps, J.I. Burton beat Rural Retreat in the quarterfinals 4-1. Yet Rural Retreat is the school in the semifinals, which would make me think that it was a game forfeited by the pitching rule, which would actually run us up to 3 of those this year at this point in
That, we're,
time. I'm not going to put the other 2 schools on blast right now
that we know of.
that we know of. Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm not going to put the other schools on blast, but again, that's not confirmed. That's just suspicion looking at the bracket and guessing at what's happened.
I'm
So either way, Chilhowie Rural Retreat on the top. East Side Lebanon is the game of the game for this region. I think the winner of that East Side Lebanon game is probably Lebanon. I think they're your region champs. I would have to lean just from a history standpoint, Chilhowie on the top. And then that win over Honaker is a pretty good win.
Nolan, that
Um,
might be put in wrong. That score might be put in wrong, because everything
that's also possible.
that I'm able to find is that um, that an arm through a really Rural Retreat beat J.I. Burton 4-1.
Okay, so the score is backwards. All right, so no one messed up. No one messed
Not
up on
in
the
that
pitching
game.
rule here, so it's only
Not in that
2 instances that we know of this year.
Yeah, not in that game.
Not in that one. Rural Retreat with the win over Burton. Um, Sorry, Jason, you lost. All right. Any other thoughts on Class 1 and Class 2?
Nope.
All right. Again, we are going to, I know we focused on Class 1 and 2 there. We are going to have a Spaces on the evening of Memorial Day, May 29th. If you don't catch that live, and we'll advertise it on Twitter. I'm pretty sure this pod will end up actually coming out either at exactly the same time that Spaces starts or after. Um, if you don't catch it on Twitter, we'll have it pinned to the PBR Virginia DC profile. And in there, we'll probably get more into Class 3s through 6. I just wanted to update really quickly. So far on the season, our staff has been out to 168 high school games in Virginia and DC. We've seen 152 total teams. Bert, the goal was 160. We've got 2 weeks to go, and we're already past that.
That's good. It's a good year. Shout out to Cam and Jordan.
Yeah, definitely. Shout out to our PBR MHGF guys, Jordan Jones and Cameron Eck. Cam helps me up here. Jordan's been the master of long drives to anywhere that you send him to. They have been absolutely imperative for us to get to that number, to be honest with you.
Looks like we should get to 175, hopefully.
I think 175 will definitely happen. I know I should probably pick up 7 more myself between 3 this week, or I'm going to try for 3 this week if the schedule cooperates, and then 4 state championship week.
Yeah, this Tuesday and Wednesday. If there's anything on Thursday, that'll be the end of the K's All Day run for high school baseball this year.
Yeah, we got tournament time coming up here pretty soon. So our coverage will shift here as we approach the end of the high school season to starting to focus on our month of June, which looking at the calendar gives me a little anxiety.
Gives you anxiety.
Yeah, I was about to say there's a lot of things on it, and I'm not going to half of it. But all right, any other thoughts, notes, things to add, Bert?
Nope, just tons of scout days coming up, events. If you haven't requested an invite to state games, you need to do so. We probably have about 20 or 25 spots left. We're over 100 right now. We're in the 105 to 110 range. So make sure to get those requests in. Also, top prospect games at ODU is starting to take shape a little bit. So again, just make sure you get those requests in for those events.
Yep. All right. Again, if you're joining us for an event this summer, make sure you get that stuff in. Those are coming the end of June. And as the high school season comes to a close, this podcast will shift to covering those events and things that we've seen at them. So just be aware, we're not going to go away for the summer like we did last year. We are going to stick with you in some capacity. I will figure out a time to record. I'm not sure when that will be, but we will find one. So that's going to do it for us today. Look for us next week to come back with a state tournament championship preview, as we will probably break down all 6 state championships once we have the brackets in next week's podcast. And that's going to be it for us today, and we'll see you out there.